Saturday, February 10th, 2024, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So I hope you had a very nice week, a good week, and you're enjoying your weekend. Yes, we are being bombarded with a lot of information, especially about war, how we should be preparing for war against Russia or even China. Here in the UK, they're talking about implementing conscription or national service again. They're talking about increasing government spending on the military from 2% to 5%. We had the interview between Tucker Carlson and President Putin. It's all about war. They're bombarding us, of course, and there is an agenda. It's not just about making money, and of course they're making a lot of money. The bankers, the big corporations, U.S. Politics as well is heavily divided on the topic, even though when push comes to shove, they're going to keep shoving the billions into these wars. But I want to talk about another reason for war today, and this might be disturbing for some, but it's the truth. And I've got information here, reference that will prove it to you. Some of you might think it's conspiracy theory, but it's conspiracy research, I would say. And yes, there are good books about how war is a racket, and I recommend it. This small pamphlet by Smedley Butler of how the bankers and the big corporations and politicians, they all benefit from wars and crises as well, like we had in 2020. That's part of it as well. But I'm going to just talk about war today. And I think there's a bigger motive for war, and that's what we're going to look at. And it's more to do with changing the nature of a society, the nature and the traditions of a country, of a nation. And there is really good information about this. And you can watch the video, you can watch the interview that G. Edward Griffin, the guy who wrote about the Federal Reserve in The Creature from Jekyll Island, and I recommend this book too. He did an interview with someone called Norman Dodd in 1982. I recommend also you download this video and save it, because it might not be around for much longer. It was published on YouTube 6 years ago. It's entitled Norman Dodd on Tax-Exempt Foundations, Manipulating Politics and Education. I'm going to give you a brief summary of what this was all about, this investigation in 1954. It went by the name of the Reese Committee. The official name was the Special Committee to Investigate the Tax-Exempt Foundations, right? And Norman Dodd was the guy who directed the staff of the committee. He did all the research. And he's got a very interesting background. He's passed away, of course. He passed away a few months after this interview. But he started out on Wall Street right at the tail end of the Roaring '20s. And he talks about that, but it's a different topic. I'm not going to cover it, but it's really interesting too. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go briefly through what Norman Dodd said about this investigation and the tax-exempt foundations. And then I'm going to play some clips in relation to the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and what Norman Dodd found out about this foundation. Very disturbing. So I took some notes here. And this is what Norman Dodd said. The major tax-exempt foundations of this land since at least 1945 have been operating to promote a hidden agenda, and that agenda has nothing to do with the surface appearance of charity, good works, or philanthropy. Yeah, don't worry. At the end, I'm going to come to the present day philanthropical foundations, right? He says the real objectives include the creation of a worldwide collectivist state, including the Soviet Union, which is to be ruled from behind the scenes by those same interests that now control the tax-exempt foundations. Interesting, because the Soviet Union, of course, collapsed 9 years after this interview. So you kind of wonder, and this is a different topic, but it's just a question I'm asking. Did Putin find out about this and he's trying to get out of this? Maybe, but that's a different topic. Let's continue. And we're going to continue by skipping now to the part where he talks about the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. And keep that name of that foundation in mind, and you'll see why it's very nefarious, I would say. It's like upside down. So what happened in relationship to the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace? Well, Norman Dodd and his staff, they prepared questions for the Carnegie Foundation, and they sent a letter. Norman Dodd sent a letter to the president, Joseph Johnson, and he replied to Norman Dodd, and he said that yes, they don't have a problem in answering all those questions, but he said that it would take too long. It would be a lot of trouble, and that he had a counter suggestion to make. So he invited him to come to New York to meet him, two vice presidents, and interestingly, a lawyer, their counsel from Sullivan and Cromwell. And this is from me here, because Norman Dodd doesn't say anything about this, but the Dulles brothers, of course, Allen Dulles, who was the head of the CIA, who JFK fired, right? They were partners in this law firm. This is the law firm, or at least it has been, I don't know recently, but it's the law firm of the CIA and the major Wall Street institutions, right? So just keep that in mind too. I thought that was interesting. So let's get back to the notes. So this is what President Johnson of the Carnegie Foundation proposed to Norman Dodd. He said that they could give access to one of their staff members of the committee to their library, to the foundation's library, for 2 weeks, so that they could access the minute books of the foundation since its inception. And he said, we think that you or Congress will be able to find out everything you need from those minutes. And Norman Dodd says that he almost fell out of his chair because he was thinking, wow, they're going to give us access to all this information. And he had an inkling to what was going to be in there. But he said that Johnson had been president for only 2 years. And the other guys are really young, so they didn't really know much about what was going on. And the foundation, of course, started in 1908. And he also speculated, Norman Dodd, that they wouldn't have gone through all the cards, right? So this is where it gets interesting. So Norman Dodd selected a practicing attorney a lady by the name of Catherine Casey to go to New York and research all these cards, minute cards from the Carnegie Foundation. Of course, they're not going to look at everything. They did something called spot research. They take some of it, or else it would take a lot more than 2 weeks. But she was not, how can I say, sympathetic to the Reese Committee, because she thought, what could philanthropic foundations be doing that is so bad, right? So she was really not with the program, but nevertheless, Norman Dodd sent her there. And now I'm going to play some clips, disturbing clips, about what Catherine Casey found out from her research. And at the end, you'll see what happened to her as well. So, and of course, these are from the minutes of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. So I'm going to play here. The first clip is, and I think that's what's happening today to the world, is they want to change society. So here we go.
And off she went to New York. She came back at the end of 2 weeks with the following in the way of on dictaphone belts. We are now at the year 1908, which was the year that the Carnegie began operations. And in that year, the trustees, meeting for the first time, raised a specific question, which they discussed throughout the balance of the year in a very learned fashion. And the question is there any means known more effective than war, assuming you wish to alter the life of an entire people? And they conclude that no more effective means than war to that end is known to humanity.
So here's another interesting clip. And this reminds me of Boris Johnson. Why? And it's to do with President Wilson. What's the similarity here? Well, we saw that President Putin said that they're ready to make peace back in April of 2022 with Ukraine. But then former Prime Minister Boris Johnson of the UK sabotaged that peace. And in this clip, just listen to what Catherine Casey found from her research of the minutes of the Carnegie Endowment, Carnegie Foundation Endowment for International Peace. So just listen to this.
Then time passes, and we are eventually in a war, which would have been World War I. And at that time, they record on their minutes a shocking report in which they dispatched to President Wilson a telegram cautioning him to see that the war does not end too quickly.
Pretty interesting, isn't it? So now we're going to skip to the clip where Norman Dodd talks about when the war is over. And the foundation, of course, had to make sure that the change in society wouldn't be reverted back to the pre-war era, 1914 era. So they talk about education. And nowadays, it's the same, I would say. They don't want us going back to pre-2020 or pre-2001. So listen to this.
At that time, their interest shifts over to preventing what they call a reversion of life in the United States to what it was prior to 1914, when World War I broke out. And they arrive at that point, they come to the conclusion that to prevent a reversion, we must control education in the United States. And they realize that that's a pretty big task. So to them it is too big for them alone, so they approach the Rockefeller Foundation.
So now the most disturbing part, and that's why I said in the beginning, this could be disturbing. You might not want to watch it, but this is what Norman Dodd says, the impact on Catherine Casey, mental impact that doing this research had on her. So listen to this.
Yeah, I might tell you this experience, as far as its impact on Catherine Casey was concerned, was she never was able to return to her law practice. If it hadn't been for Carol Reese's ability to tuck her away on a job with the Federal Trade Commission, I don't know what would have happened to Catherine, but ultimately she lost her mind as a result of it. Terrible shock to her. It's a very rough experience to encounter proof of these kinds.
All right, so now I want to skip forward to present day and go over very quickly, and you can investigate yourself. I have had a look at these foundations, and these are foundations that I think are doing pretty much what the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace did back pre-World War I and during World War I. And they're probably even still around, I would say. So the first one, of course, is the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, or the Tony Blair Foundation. Second one, of course, is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The third one is the Rockefeller Foundation. And they were already involved back then, especially with education, as you heard. And the other one is the Open Society, which is really the George Soros Foundation. And before I finish, I just wanted to talk about Ewan Blair. Who's Ewan Blair? Well, he's Tony Blair's son. And he was born in 1984, so he's 40 years old. Actually, he was 40 years old on January 19th. But he's done really well. And guess what industry he's involved in? Well, let's read here from Wikipedia. Apprenticeships Company. In 2016, Blair, that's Ewan, and his friend Sophie Adelman jointly founded the company White Hat, which provides apprenticeships for school leavers. White Hat was rebranded to Multiverse in 2021. The EdTech startup provides apprenticeships in the UK and USA, specializing in data and technology. Multiverse delivers 9 apprenticeship programs that range from level 3, equivalent of 3 A levels, to level 6, equivalent of a university degree. 3 A levels is like, for the US viewers, it's like graduating high school. The company was judged to be outstanding in its most recent July 2021 inspection of Ofsted. Of course, they're going to be judged outstanding. It's Tony Blair's company, really. His son is just a cover. And it just goes to show how education is important, right? So I'm going to stop right here. I'm sure a lot of you are going to have questions about this, so you can comment in the comment section. Some of you might not agree with me. Some of you might think this is all conspiracy theory, but of course that term was developed by the CIA, the people who are in bed with Sullivan and Cromwell and the likes, right? To stop people like me and others looking into this topic. But yeah, so my conclusion today is that yes, war is a racket, and yes, people make a lot of money. The bankers make a lot of money. The politicians make a lot of money. The big corporations make a lot of money. But it's more than just the money. It's about control and molding society, changing society. And I think this is what they're trying to do here. So how are they trying to change society? Now, well, that's a topic maybe for another video, but many of you know of Agenda 2030. I mean, if you want to find out actually how they're trying to change society, go into the World Economic Forum website and look at their Great Reset. The Tony Blair Institute for Global Change as well does a great job in telling us what they really want to do. So I recommend you go there and find out. And how do we fight this? Well, sometimes it's kind of depressing to see that this is going on, and not more people are awake to this. But all I can do is trying to keep exposing these people and, putting the truth out there and shining a light on what's really going on. And that's why I ask you to try to share this as much as possible. And if you enjoy my videos, make sure you not only subscribe, but hit the like button and also click the little notification bell, because I make videos every day. And I'm sure a lot of you are not getting notified of my videos. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good weekend. Take care. Bye.